You're listening to episode 8 of the Ento Podcast.
Looking to stay up to date on all things entomorphagy? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Ento Podcast with your host, Ross Bell.
Before we dive into today's episode, I just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Cricket. Cricket, for all your dried, flavoured and cricket protein products. Find us at cricket.co.uk. Our first story comes from the Telegraph and it's entitled, Could Edible Insects Soon Be Flying Off the Shelves? And it's by Bradley Gerard. Serious moves are being made to put the likes of crickets, grasshoppers, buffalo worms and mealworms firmly on the menu. Those who believe that insects are both a valuable source of protein and a food that requires less energy to produce believe the big change is on its way. Mark Ramsden, an entomologist with ADAS, Britain's largest independent agricultural and environmental consultancy, says that there's been a shift in how serious people are now taking the nurturing of entomorphagy, otherwise known as eating insects, in the UK, as well as insect farming. It's the biggest change I've seen, he says. When I first started talking about this, it was all about novelty and people wanted to see photos of someone with a cricket in their mouth, but now it's more, how do we do this? And the legal aspects. People just want to know what they can and cannot do. Neil and Shami from Eat Grub, the co-authors of Eat Grub, the Ultimate Insect Cookbook, featuring recipes by chef Seb Holmes, say that their company is researching the benefits of protein from insects compared to that of from other sources such as whey and beef. He hopes scientific claims about the quality of insect protein over other sources could boost bug eating, at least in the fitness fraternity. But not everyone is convinced. Jane Middleton, who has worked with food producers and retailers for 25 years, is skeptical that insects can be mass-produced products. Companies she has spoken with that sell insect-based products had not seen the demand they expected. People could just eat less meat and still get plenty of protein, as most people eat more protein than they need, she says. Some people have spent their whole lives keeping insects out of what they're eating. It's still something they've got to get over. But advocates continue to champion the cause. Woven is a British network trying to champion insects as a food for humans and animals. Nick Russo, its managing director, is compiling a dossier he hopes will accelerate changes in the law. European countries have been able to decide for themselves on whether to allow people to eat whole insects. Britain does allow it, but Europe is seeking continent-wide legislation. EU regulations allow food ingredients extracted from insects, but are ambiguous about whole insects themselves, but this is expected to be clarified later next year. Companies currently selling insect-based products will have a 2-year grace period from then until 2020. After that, they will need approval from the European Food Safety Authority, which is where Woven come in. Woven say that if approval for, say, the house cricket were to be granted, any business selling products containing it would benefit from the approval, provided they followed the same process. Someone has to invest quite a bit of money in consultancy work to get together the evidence, possibly including carrying out bespoke laboratory analysis, with the result that the whole sector can enter the market, says Mr. Russo. No one's particularly keen on doing this, obviously. So basically, what's happening is the EU need a analysis by species. So if a company spent the money on the legals, the research, and all of the testing behind it for, say, the house cricket, then once that became legal in the eyes of the EU food agencies, then any company would be able to use that species in their products. So they wouldn't be a sort of a trademark thing where if you put the money to it, you're the only one that's able to use it. This is where Woven come into it, where we're trying to get a lot of smaller companies together so that we can split the costs of the research and all the legal aspects that go together in getting all of this submitted to the EU food agencies, so that when it becomes legal, then everyone benefits from it, rather than having one person pay for everything and then everyone else jump on board. I'll put a link to the Woven page and the article that they've got about the things they're trying to do to try and get the research and everything put into the European Food Agency, and that'll be in the show notes. This article's from the Otago Daily Times on Wednesday the 19th of April, and it's by Charmaine Smith. New Zealand restaurants embrace bugs as a protein fit for the menu. We may well be unfamiliar with eating insects in the West, but these days you may well find a few ants or locusts or grubs turning up on plates in some of New Zealand's leading restaurants. While some people see insects as exciting, new, healthy and environmentally friendly ingredients, others may still regard them with aversion, even though people in other cultures, particularly Asia, Africa and Latin America, have been eating them for centuries. Peter Roundup and Rebecca DeProsper, who founded Anteater in Christchurch about a year ago, are promoting local insects for food and selling them to chefs in high-end restaurants. He explained that with leaders in the food industry using these products in creative ways that people enjoy, it will start shifting people's perceptions to realise that bugs are food and that they have amazing flavours when they are prepared properly. Native ants harvested around Christchurch are used as a garnish by several chefs. Roots in Littleton's mixologists are experimenting with them in cocktails, and the craft brewers looking at using them to flavour beer. In Dunedin, Greg Pienaar of Vault 21 serves locally farmed locusts on his weekend menu and says he is proud to help set the trend. But besides the novelty and flavour factors, there are many more serious reasons for including insects in our diet. Anteater focuses on local insects, although cricket powder is produced overseas and is growing in popularity internationally. They already gather ants in Canterbury and are working on farming hoo grubs, which are expensive to harvest in the wild. New Zealand locusts, which are raised in Dunedin, are a different species from the locusts that plague crops in Asia and the Middle East. Anteater's vision is to develop an insect mince that can be used as a direct meat substitute. In its short existence, Anteater has already won several prizes, including in October last year, the University of Canterbury's Entree $85,000 challenge competition. So if you're around Christchurch area heading down to the South Island, pop by Anteater, let me know what the food's like. It sounds like they're going to be trying to do a tofu type cricket mince or insect mince, similar to what the guys over in Seafood in Canada are doing, which is really tasty. So they do a nice bolognese sauce if you get a chance to try it. This next story could be good for someone listening from LA who are looking for something to do on Saturday. It's by Brendan Webber from NBC Los Angeles. The world's largest plate of nachos to feature chips made from crickets. The team at Chirps Chips are attempting to create the largest plate of nachos at Soma Street Food Park on the 22nd of April around 3 p.m. The nachos will consist of 1,000 pounds of nacho cheese, 800 pounds of beans, and 400 pounds of corn and salsa. If you're interested, there's tickets available at Eventbrite, and I'll put a link in the notes for this episode. Chirps Chips were created by 3 college students, Laura DeSaro, Rose Wang, and Meryl Netel, after Laura came back from studying in Tanzania. In 2014, they launched a Kickstarter campaign launching their Chirps Cricket Chips, which became one of the most successful food Kickstarters ever, and have since gone on to appear on Shark Tank, which is a US version of Dragon's Den, where they received 100,000 backing from Mark Cuban. Again, if you want to sort of go down and cheer these guys on, if you're around the Soma Street Food Park on the 22nd of April, there's a Eventbrite link in the show notes, and you can go along and cheer them on. That's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and leave your comments below. All the show notes for all these articles can be found at theentopodcast.co.uk. Thanks again. Until next time. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ento Podcast. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit theentopodcast.co.uk and on Facebook and Twitter at The Ento Podcast. We'll catch you next time.